everybody out there in the internet land. Welcome to another episode of the West Coast Jazz Hour. Today we have, as you can see, a really nice panel here because we're going to do a tribute to a legendary jazz drummer, vibraphone player, timpanist named Larry Bunker. And with us today are a couple of very special guests who are legendary musicians, each in their own right. First of all, I would like to introduce Mike Lang, who is a piano player, composer, who has recorded over 2,000 film scores with almost every major film composer there is out there, such as John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, Lalo Schifrin, Henry Mancini, etc., 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 etc. He also recorded with and played with Natalie Cole, Peggy Lee, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, Lee Konitz, Ella Fitzgerald. The list goes on and on. Then secondly, welcome Mike.
Yeah, Mike.
And then secondly, we have with us one of the greatest bass players in the world, which is Mr. Chuck Berghofer, who was a regular member of the Shelly Manne Quintet and the Pete Jolly Trio. He is also recorded with Frank Sinatra, Zoot Sims, Art Pepper, Frank Rosalino, Ella Fitzgerald, and Gerry Mulligan. Welcome, Chuck.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you.
And last but definitely not least, we have one of the greatest drummers in the world with us today. He has played with Woody Herman, Count Basie, the Ray Brown Trio, Oscar Peterson, the LA4. He is the leader of his own trio and also co-leader of the Clayton Hamilton Jazz Orchestra. We welcome great drummer Jeff Hamilton today. Welcome, Jeff.
You. Thanks, Kevin. And Josh, I don't know how these other two guys feel, but after reading the resumes, it's apparent that none of us could keep a job.
Yeah. I mean, some would say that. Other people would say, like, boy, you guys are so successful and so great. You've played with so many people, you know, because everybody wanted to have you guys.
Okay, we'll go with that. I like that.
Right. So let me say a little introduction to or about Larry. For people who don't know who he was born as Lawrence Benjamin Bunker on November 4th, 1928, and passed on March 8th, 2005. He was born in Long Beach, California, and became a central figure of the West Coast jazz scene, one of the few musicians who was actually also from this area. He started out in some of the first band iterations of Art Pepper and Gerry Mulligan, and then he continued to play with Howard Rumsey's Lighthouse All-Stars and with Shorty Rogers. He was a member of the Bill Evans Trio with Chuck Israels between 1963 and 65. And besides playing drums, he was also an accomplished vibraphonist and also a timpanist with the Los Angeles Philharmonic Orchestra. So to be said that this guy could do a lot, that's an understatement.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe it's cool to go around and say, what was your first encounter with Larry, or where did you play with him for the first time? Where did you meet him for the first time? Some story of your first encounter with him, and maybe we can start with Mike.
It's an easy question to answer because I met Larry on the very first recording session I ever did. And the story leading up to it is pretty long. I don't know if you want to go through the whole thing, but when I got out of school and came back to Los Angeles, through Pearl Kaufman, who was a first call classical pianist in the studios and also Stravinsky's pianist, I was introduced to Lalo Schifrin. I went to one of his sessions and I had a nice little talk with him. And the next thing I knew, he had recommended me, not having heard me at all, to Paul Horn, who was looking for a pianist in his band. So my audition was that I needed to know the chords that Bill Evans played on So What, because he had a band that played a lot of mobile music. So he said, that's all you need to know to be in my band. So anyway, I went to his house and I got a formal, recognition to be in his quintet. And I thought I would probably get a gig to play at Shelley's or something. And the next thing that happened was I got a call from a contractor named Bobby Helper to do a recording project that Lalo was engaged to write for Paul, who just started a new recording contract with RCA. So the first time I was in the studios, I was working with Lalo Schifrin on a full big composition called Jazz Suite on the Mass Steps. So it's a jazz liturgical work with 4 vocal soloists and a choir and the Paul Horn Quintet and kind of a mixed orchestra of brass, percussion, and woodwinds. And Larry Bunker played drums, and Bill Goodwin hadn't yet been hired to be in the quintet. Paul didn't have a regular drummer at that point. So Larry was the drummer, along with Lynn Blessing, who's the vibes player, and Bill Plummer was the, oh my God, you've done your
He brought that one with him.
And Al Schmidt was not only the engineer, but it was one of his, it might have been his first production assignment, and we were at RCA. And it's like, you know, there's no place to go but down after that kind of thing. And it was amazing. And Larry was amazing. And I mean, everybody was amazing. It just, it was like, I don't know, it's like going out on your first date with the most perfect person you could ever go out on a date with. That was what that project was.
Yeah.
At Larry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's great.
That's amazing. That's amazing that session was, this session
Yeah.
was your first.
Yeah.
Can't get any better than that. Let's go to Chuck. Chuck, what was your, do you remember what your first encounter was?
Oh yeah, pretty much. I used to go before I was really young, and I probably 19 or 20. And somehow, I don't know how I even got involved in all this, but I wound up going to his house, and Red Mitchell lived real close to him at that time. So I went to Larry's house, and I went in, you know, met him there, and that's, I don't think we even played that day, but just to meet him and all that stuff. And the drums were sitting around and all that stuff. Anyway, then I went to Red Mitchell's house quite often, and he'd play the piano and I'd play the bass, that kind of thing. And you know, I was just a kid, so I'm learning. And so it wasn't until later on, that's when I first met, you know, Larry. Later on, I met him quite often, but at the manhole, when I opened the, you know, played at Shelley's manhole, there was a gas station on the corner, and almost many times I'd pull in to park, and he was asleep in his car. I swear to God, in the gas station, you know, waiting there. And what's happening, Larry? Oh, yeah, well, there he is. Okay. And you know, I can't remember if he came in or not, but he was sleeping there. Little things like that, you know. But that was way early on, you know. And after that, you know, I played with him on several things, but he was like. One of my favorite things that's you still showed not the last time, I think, was with Zoot Sims at Dante's. Larry's playing drums. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that was
that was back a while.
Oh, such a great show.
God, he sounded great. You know, he was. It was. I looked at that picture and I thought, oh my God, you know, look at him. And you know, we were all younger then, and then I played many dates that he was in the back there telling everybody what to do and this and that. Wait a minute. The third violin made a mistake on bar for 28, you know, that kind of thing. He'd pick up on all that stuff. And, you know,
Wow.
but I didn't play that much with him as far as just drums and bass, because he was a studio player mainly then, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But a sweetheart. And I've got, I think I sent you pictures, maybe not, of him giving me a kiss, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
That was one of his birthdays toward the end, actually.
Yeah.
But he was a sweetheart, and I can remember other times he comes over to the house, and he used to smoke a lot, and he always leave a couple of burns in the couch.
Oh God!
You know, because he was a pretty heavy drinker at that time. Later on he didn't drink at all, but yeah, he could really put it away. And he'd just be out of it, you know. but a great musician, and what can I say, you know?
Yeah.
He's one of the top people.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yeah. Jeff, what was your first encounter with Larry?
I don't remember the session. I've been sitting here trying to remember who the artist was, and he was on percussion, and I was in the drum booth, and I didn't know there were so many people in the room. I didn't know who was on percussion, and all of a sudden this deep voice enters the drum booth, and he says, "Are those calfskin heads?" And I said, "Larry Bunker," and he goes, "Are those calfskin heads?" You know, he didn't want to talk about anything, and we immediately connected through the drums. He didn't want to talk about percussion or anything else he was doing. I think Chuck and Mike, I think part of him missed playing the drums as well as he played, because every time I was in the studio with him, he'd hang out in the drum booth and we would just talk about, and he'd sit down and play, "You mind if I sit down and try these?" You know?
Yeah.
And he always sounded great with it, but he'd, "Oh, you know, I'm rusty. I can't do much of that." But he was always so kind and welcoming, and didn't have to be. You know, these guys are legends in the studio, and here comes this 24-year-old, 25-year-old in the studio. And Chuck, the first date I had with you, you were the same way. You just open arms, and Larry was like that every time I played with him. And the one thing that I really got a kick out of was the Natalie Cole Unforgettable performance at Pasadena Civic Auditorium. And it was a whole concert was for PBS. It's on, the whole thing's on YouTube now, that I just saw the other day.
Yeah.
And he was behind me playing percussion, and I was called with 2 days notice to go in and sight read the concert because Harold Jones had double booked himself and couldn't do the gig. And I was only on 4 tunes on Unforgettable. You know, I didn't know the whole thing. And I walked in, and you know, I've always been okay with confidence levels and all when I go into something like that. So I wasn't nervous. It was like, I got a job to do here. Yeah. And Larry came down behind me on the break, and he says, "Well, it sounds like you've got things under control." You know? And he said, "I've got something for you tomorrow. I want to bring something in. I want you to try the snare drum in the dress rehearsal." And it was a Billy Gladstone snare drum. Ooh. And it had a plaque on it, brass plaque, Shelly Man #2.
Oh.
And it was the second drum that Billy Gladstone had made. And I can't touch this thing. Are you kidding? You know, this is like the Holy Grail. And I said, "Oh, I'll play it. I want to hear you play it." You know, and I put it on for one tune, and it compared to the other drums at the time that I was playing, it sounded like a gunshot going off the back wall. And I said, "I can't, this drum, there's too much drum for me," you know. Well, after Shelly passed, Larry went to Flip and said, "That drum needs to be preserved. Can I have it? You know, it needs cleaning up." So he gave it to him. He took it to a piano repair guy, you know, and the guy kept it for months. And Larry called him. He says, you know, it's black piano finish on the drum. And he says, you got it ready yet? And he goes, "I need a few more weeks." You know, he called him like 3 or 4 times. Finally, after a year or something, Larry just goes to the guy and he says, "I need the drum." And the guy said, "Well, here." And he handed it to him and he said, "It's been done. It's just so beautiful that I couldn't let it out of the shop." So our bond really was through Shelly, because Shelly had thrown him a lot of work early on too, and that was our common link. That was our go-to common link all the time. So yeah. What a gentleman, and didn't mince words. If he, you know, like you said, would call a violin, third violin note out, you know. And Mandel, as we all know, Johnny Mandel, he would trust certain people. There was one famous saxophone player says, "You got a wrong note in the saxophone," and Mandel fires back from the podium, "How would you know?" You know, right? You probably know the session, Chuck, that we were on. And so he would listen to Larry Bunker. Larry would just walk into a room and he said, "John, check the oboe in the third bar."
Yeah, right. Yeah. Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for all your stories.
Thanks, Jeff.
Maybe we should start with some music.
Play some music. Yeah.
Now comes the hard part. What shall we pick for the first track?
Right. Any thoughts? There's so many we have here.
Yeah. Why not check something that's from the earlier? Let's do the P. Jolly one.
Okay.
Little Bird.
Little Bird.
Yeah.
Oh.
So this is with our guest Chuck and P. Jolly's trio. and we're going to play Little Bird off of the album that's called Little Bird.
This was Pete's first sort of a hit. I mean, with the trio, whatever. And I don't even know how it came about, where it came from, but Little Bird was the thing. And you know, it wasn't one of the things I loved doing all the time, but we had to play it all the time. That was one of the things. So anyway, yeah, you'll hear Pete.
Yeah. Yeah. Here we go, Little Bird.
Is that it? Yeah.
Oh man, I gotta get a temp. I gotta wipe my eyes.
Man,
I miss Pete Jolly so much.
Yeah, yeah,
And Larry, of course, too. But Pete was, what can I say?
yeah.
Many years with him. Yeah.
Pete's, I'm just amazed. It's so perfect melodically, the improvisations, the time feel, the accents, and the way the trio sounds. It's just, it's like you could spend a month and write out something and wouldn't have any more, purpose than what he played.
right.
A perfect composition the way he improvised. The feel is so good.
And the wild thing is that we never had an arrangement written down, ever.
Yeah.
Somebody, you were asking me, do you have a chart for that?
Yeah, right. No, we're learning them. We're getting
we
ready.
also,
yeah.
We also never played the blues once. I don't think.
Really?
Yeah,
Anyway.
that's beautiful. That's it's such a great recording, so groovy, and
Larry's fills on that are just
Yeah.
slick.
Jeff, I go right ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, Kevin, because I know you've done a lot of homework on all these things for the sessions that you do. And Chuck, I wanted to ask you too, on the early records, I've noticed over the years that Larry got called for a lot of bossa nova and Brazilian recording type things. And that felt great, obviously. Was he like the main guy at that time in the jazz world to get called for those things? I mean, he was on the Bud Shank saxophone section, and they did a couple of things on there. It was perfect.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, it seemed like he got called for a lot of those things.
Boy, I don't know. That's wild, because all this I didn't know until you guys called about this gig that Larry was on this. I thought it was Nick Martinez, but Larry's doing. Yeah. I mean, if somebody said who is that, I would, because I think Nick's on the rest of the album or some of the album, and I forget how that worked out. But yeah, when I found out it was Larry, I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah,
because I was just a youngster then.
Yeah, and Jeff, you put me onto this Bud Shank and Claire Fisher, the Bossa Nova, what is it, the Bossa Samba Jazz record,
right?
Where a bunch of guys are playing on. I don't know where he's playing everything or why he's playing so authentic like the Brazilian guys from back in the day. I don't know, but there was this funny moment where which I remember with Brent Fisher's interview that we did, and he mentioned something about this recording, and Claire was super into the Brazilian music, so but he said something about that with that crew with Larry, that they were some of the first American guys who were trying to play Brazilian music like the Brazilian artists, basically.
Yeah,
so it might be through Claire.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe before that. I know that Lorendo Almeida told me that the first record was in 53 or maybe 54 with Bud Shank and Lorendo. That was the first Bossa Nova record with Harry Babison and Roy Hart and Chuck.
Wow.
And so it was, some of it was more like, I call like in the mood Bossa Nova, it was swinging,
Yeah.
But so I'm not sure you can technically call that a Bossa Nova record, but it was their take on doing Bossa Nova. And that's the record that was the reason that the LA4 got started years later. Carl Jefferson and Concord wanted to recreate the record. So that's how that started.
Yeah, cool. And I wanted to actually ask you, Jeff, because you've mentioned something along these lines once to me, but Larry was so hip in his vocabulary, actually, that I'm asking, where did he get the stuff from? Like, do you have any insights what some of his influences were?
Well, he was very humble, but he loved Dave Tuff and he loved Don Lemon. He told me a story about going to the Palladium to see Woody Herman's band, expecting to see Dave Tuff. And Don Lemon had already come on the band, and he was an older looking guy. Dave Tuff was handsome, and Don Lemon was starting to recede a little bit, his hairline. He looked like an older guy, he always did for his age. And Larry said, I walked in and looked at this guy, and I thought, oh no, there's no Davey Tuff tonight. And he said, I was just about turned around and walked out, and the first fill, Don Lemon laid one of those bombs in the middle of the room and scared the whole room to death. And he said, I was a fan of Don Lemon's ever since. Now, for those that don't know, that aren't familiar with Don's playing, it was off the wall, in the band went he wouldn't play the band figures, he'd just set them up and get out of the way. And I think, I know a lot of Larry's kind of off the wall, as we used to call them, left-handed figures, I think come from Don more than anything else. But there's that trading on Trio 65 where everybody gives credit to Tony Williams for this one triplet thing, and Larry's doing it. So I don't know where he got that from, but he was a student of the music. I know that because every time we got together, we talked about, this recording of such and such, and everybody out all the time.
Yeah.
So I probably Lamond is what I'm guessing on some of those things.
That's interesting to hear, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't put those two together for sure, because how crisp Larry is playing, with trades. That one Shorty Rogers recording you showed on your episode of when the five winds blow. That trading, But you're mentioning Trio 65, so that might be a good segue into. In Trio 65.
This record was my introduction to Larry Bunker, and from the very first track. I mean, I think that's what we're playing, right? Israel. Yeah. I was just mesmerized, and then his playing on the symphony record that Klaus Ogerman arranged with the same band with Chuck, Israel's, and that was another important Bunker bunker moment for me. So I'm glad you picked. I think Jeff, you suggested we play this. I just love this track.
Yeah.
So this is Trio 65, Bill Evans with Chuck Israels and Larry Bunker.
That's some advanced drumming for that time.
That's right.
And using the hi-hat at will as a left hand whenever you wanted to use it. And, Papa Joe Jones did it early on, but I mean, Larry was just so active with the left foot and using the bass drum as another snare drum, actually, or another tom-tom, and not as a bass drum in the soloing. And just making all things in the drum set his saxophone or trumpet. It was just, he was singing all of his ideas, and you hear that, starting ideas with the bass drum, and a lot of people use the bass drum as the anchor at the end of their idea. He really opened up a lot of those things on his drumming. And I'm sorry I chose that to play, because now people really know what it's supposed to sound like.
I mean, you do a good job at it too with that whole concept, I gotta say.
I like that, but thank you.
Yeah. Was he kind of also an influence on you regarding the way how he played brushes?
Not so much. I think the intensity that he had playing the brushes, I played along with, and I could feel him. Like, as I say, groan when you play for the intensity. I could feel him groaning while I was playing, and it meant I had to get with it. I couldn't be relaxed and play. I mean, I had to get that motion in the time that he had, or felt like it was motion. Shelley, I hear a lot of Shelley. Chuck, I don't know. You can certainly comment on this.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I hear a lot of Shelley in his brush ideas and his soloing. But this particular record, he never backed. I mean, he kept his foot on the accelerator the whole time. He didn't back off the gas, and every trade was transcribable and a masterpiece. And he didn't back off any of these things, and that's why I like this particular track, because it's 100% all the way through.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Maybe
piano player's not too bad either.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and this whole record, it's recorded so well, and all the tracks. I mean, How My Heart Sings is on here, and Elsa. I mean, what a great, beautiful record. I think an underrated Bill Evans record for sure, or less talked about.
Yeah. And people don't know Larry played with Bill.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of a hidden fact. And Claire Fisher actually recommended Larry to Bill. They're playing Shelley, and I don't know what happened to the drummer, but Bill called Claire. I need a drummer. He said, "I got the guy for you," and he said, "Larry." That's how they started playing with him. That might have been that live at Shelley's recording. I don't know if that was the first night that Larry played with Shelley or Bill at Shelley's Manhole.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of Shelley's Manhole, Mike, actually one of your picks for some music with Larry was the Larry Bunker Quartet with Gary Burton and Bob West on bass, and Larry obviously on drums, and Mike Wofford on piano.
I think it's Mike. Yeah.
I found this quite. I just went up to YouTube and put Larry Bunker, and the first thing that came up was Larry Bunker, and it was quartet spelled like a French quartet, and I didn't even know that this record existed, except I sort of knew, because once I saw it, I kind of knew, but I'd never heard it. And so this is, to my knowledge, the only record he made as a leader, and featuring Gary Burton, which is an amazing, thing. And I put on the first track, which is the one I decided that we should listen to, because it's got a lot of Larry in it, and it's just an amazing band. And one of the things that's really amazing to me is that the whole idea that Bill Evans introduced when he started working with Scott LaFaro and Paul Motion, of having the bass not necessarily walking all the time, having this sort of conversational thing. This is very much a part of what's going on this record. You'll hear the way Bob West plays and Wofford plays, and how it all comes together. And Larry's playing is extraordinary, as is Gary Burton's. But it speaks for itself.
Yeah.
What year is this recording?
66.
66? Okay.
At least that's what they say on YouTube here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the whole record is at the same level as this one track. I mean, it's amazing. The material is great. There's a couple of things by Michael Gibbs, composer from England, and it's really wonderful. Mike Wofford's amazing.
Oh yeah.
This is a really good example of Mike live.
Yeah.
Everybody's into it.
One of my favorites.
Yeah.
I love Mike.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to hear Bunker also playing with Gerry, because Bunker played vibes himself, and Gerry made a few records with Bunker on drums too. Something's Coming is a Gerry Burton album that where Larry was on drums. So that's pretty interesting that you have like two vibes players in a band, but one guy is playing drums and the other is actually playing actual vibes.
Were the trio records with Gerry with Steve Swallow? Does anybody remember who was part of that? When Larry
Joe, the drummer on one of those.
I'm thinking of when Gerry Burton had Larry playing drums. And
I see what you mean. Okay.
I think there were trio records. I may be wrong, but I think they.
I don't know those.
Yeah, well, while we're listening to this, I can look that Something's Coming Up and see what it's. I think it might be with a quartet, actually, because it was also right around that time that Burton started to play with Stan Getz. And there's actually Jeff. Are you familiar with this recording from Tokyo? Stan Getz's quartet with Gerry Burton, but with Larry on drums and Steve Swallow.
No, but I'll tell you, one of the greatest experiences I ever had was hearing Stan Getz's quartet live. There's a club on Sunset Boulevard downstairs. I don't know, Chuck, if you happen to remember it. Ben somebody, or I can't remember. Anyway, the band was Stan Getz and Gerry Burton and Scott LaFaro and Roy Haynes.
Ooh.
And it was outrageous.
Wow.
I think they may have made a record, but boy.
Yeah, that's some heavy stuff. Right there.
Yeah.
While we can listen to the I Love You recording, that's the first song. I'm not really sure how long it is, but we can definitely check. We can definitely see. But I'll give a look what the band is with Larry and Gerry, but then under Gary's name. So here's I Love You with Larry Bunker's quartet.
Just amazing.
Yeah, Mike, good choice.
It's so, there's so many great live recordings where people just are so into it, and this is kind of one of those. It's just
Mike, I really loved Mike Walford's comping through this. When Gerry was playing chordal stuff, Mike was playing octave single lines, and staying out of the way. And then when Gerry would go to single note, then it would be more chordal. It's a great lesson for piano players.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a band. I mean, who knows how often they got to play together. Maybe it was this.
Yeah. It's interesting that this is around the time that Roy Haynes played in the group, because I had a lot of influence in Larry's playing of Roy Haynes. It did it, and the stick cross thing, and a little more aggressive, and more staccato than some of the other things that we've listened to. So it's pretty interesting. There again, student of the music, and you're listening to everybody around you, and sometimes it creeps into your playing. So I'm certainly not put down for that. It's just an awareness of what's going on around you at the time. So I think there is some of that going on in Larry's playing.
Yeah, and I thought to hear also a couple of like Shelley-isms in there, but that he's also kind of going for the rub-a-dub thing that Mel had, but then in his own way. So, but I'm astounded where he got all of that stuff from. Also in the trades, like cross rhythms, what he plays.
More like staccato rub-a-dub.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
Speaking of Mel, if you want me to tell a story he told me about going on Maynard Ferguson's band, he told me that he was, he said, I was full of piss and vinegar when I was in that band, and I wanted to take my own thing on the band, and I followed Mel Lewis, and he said Mel had this real fat sound and the relaxed beat and all, and the band loved him, and he said I came in, I wanted to be a little hotter, so he said I played the way I thought I should play, and Maynard turns around at one point during the first set and he says, "You feeling okay tonight, Larry?" And he said, then the trombone players were looking down the aisle, down the trombone row at me, like, "What are you doing down there?" And he said, "That was enough for me. I need to go back and listen to what Mel Lewis did on these things, And he said, so I did, and I wasn't going to become Mel Lewis, but I totally changed the way I wanted to treat the band. And the next night, the trombone players leaned up and gave him stuff. Oh. And he said, Maynard turned around after a couple of tunes. He says, "Feeling better tonight, huh, Larry?"
That's awesome.
So it was a sponge, I mean, you hear everything around you, and it's like, all right, I know that works, so I got to tap into why, And he was hearing it the next night. So yeah. He wasn't afraid to tell stories on himself. I mean, he's very, very humble for the amount of talent that guy had. It was like, you almost don't believe him when he starts telling stuff like that,
Yeah.
I think the thing that's interesting about Larry is, and he didn't, how can I put it? He didn't make, he wasn't out front about, this is what I do, and I'm back. But he was a real student of music and cared deeply about it, and knew music so well. I mean, to go from being a principal for timpanist, in an orchestra, and then all the percussion stuff that he did, and then having the musical knowledge he did to play vibes the way he did, and play the piano. I remember sitting at the piano playing songs, and this harmonic sense was as developed as anybody. Just anybody,
Thank God he didn't play the bass. Yeah.
Well, Mike, maybe that's why he wasn't one of those guys. Well, I do this because it would have taken too long for him to get everything out.
Anybody know? I'm saying Jeff is his bass, but anybody know about where Bob West ended up? Did he?
No, I just know that seeing the name is all I know. I don't know.
Didn't he go with the singer with Shelley, Ruth Price at one time?
I don't know.
I thought he did.
I know that when Claire started with Gerry Peacock and Gene Stone, and then his trio became Bob West and Larry. And I mean, I used to see Bob West playing around, and he also played electric bass, so he did some recording work and stuff. Yeah. And I'm reminded what a good musician he was, because I didn't have that remember that big a memory of him, other than he was a very nice guy and he always seemed to play whatever was needed to be played. But I don't know what happened to him.
I just sort of remember his name because I thought Ruth went there. If that's true, I can't remember, but I thought that's who she was going with. Because when I worked with Shelley, Ruth was a singer, and she came in and really sang beautifully, and she was so gorgeous then too. She was a dancer at one time and all that. Amazing, and she's still around doing it. I can't believe it. I saw her not long ago. It's amazing. But I think she went with Bob West for a while.
Yeah. Mike, I look. Sorry, Jeff.
Mike, can you tell that story about Larry with the costume that I mentioned earlier?
Sure, I'll tell it.
Studio story.
Was the composer, and he was a brilliant composer, and all you had to do was ask him to find that out. I mean, and he was full of himself, and he was I don't know. This is not a program about Leonard Rosen, so I'm not going to go into all that. But basically, Larry every once in a while would wear this sort of hunter's outfit that he had with a pith helmet or whatever, very African looking. And Leonard Rosen was, he just kind of larger than life. And we were on a break one day. We're out at MGM outside, and he walks by Larry. He says, "Larry," he says, "you look like you've been hunting for something. What have you been hunting for lately?" And Larry said, "I've been hunting for a downbeat for 3 days."
Oh yeah, right, yeah. That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Well, what was fun, Chuck? What was the one where he said something about communication? This is the NBC fucking whatever. Do you know that story?
I don't know that. No.
Or any of you? There was something where you couldn't hear in the headphones, or the booth wasn't doing the right thing, and he just, castigated them, without hesitation.
Well, he was known for that. Yeah, that's the whole thing, man. He every day that was on, there was always something that would happen about like that, pointing out that was wrong,
Didn't he invent the that earpiece instead of wearing headphones?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Some kind of an inner-ear type of thing, or
really?
He did.
He also did something with click tracks, didn't he? Or had some kind of click generating thing, or I don't know.
That might be part of that,
I'm allergic to those. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some earpiece that was digital or something. It was like very modern kind of.
Yeah, well, you could hear, instead of wearing headsets plugged into the studio,
right,
it was your own stuff you'd bring in.
Yeah. He was a regular Hedy Lamarr. Wow, that's cool. I have to say that Mike Wofford's playing. I mean, we interviewed Mike on the show, and we've both gotten to know Mike and Holly Hoffman, and they're just the most fantastic people. I just spoke with Holly. She says hi, everybody, to everybody. But just listening to Mike's genius, interacting in the band, and Jeff, your comments about his comping, I'm just enamored with him, and just discovering him anew. Every time I listen, I'm like, what is he going to come up with next? He's just one of the most inventive pianists I've and listen, one of the concerts we love that we played was the Shelley Mann French concert with Lee Conant's as guest, and there's just some fire on that whole live record. And thanks for calling that clip, Mike, because it's not only about Larry, it's about, Gary Burton's playing took us off. Everyone's playing so great. Yeah. My gosh.
Well, I have so many fond memories. Mike and I got to work on, some commercial recordings together. So we got to work with people playing. He was very humble and warm, and just very real. And then I used to see him at Shelley's band hall all the time, and always inspired, always original, creative.
Yeah.
Great time. You really hear how good his time is.
Oh, just amazing.
Yeah, I looked up that record of Gary Burton, Something's Coming, and it's with Chuck Israels, Larry Bunker, and Jim Hall, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they're just playing a couple standards, but it's the Bill Evans rhythm section plus Jim Hall. So I don't know that. I haven't listened to it, but I'm sure that's pretty good. But it's actually interesting. Maybe it's a cool thing to listen to what Jeff said about the Maynard band, because there are some really great recordings of Larry playing drums with a big band. Like there's this one Mel Torme recording, "Coming Home Baby," which where Larry's on, and it's just some of the best big band drumming actually that I've ever heard or come across from like the West Coast guys. Like I love Shelley, I love Mel, Larry, but Larry is putting some fire also. Actually, what you said, Jeff, like some spice under there that was very unique for his playing. So
as Jay Cano would describe it, he played with a lot of pepper. My man has a lot of pepper.
My man, yeah. Yeah, and it's from this record, "Boy with a Lot of Brass." Some really cool guys are also playing on there, besides Larry. Willie Maiden, Jimmy Cleveland, Bobby Burgess is on it, Anthony Ortega, Bobby Timmons is playing piano, and on a couple tracks it's Irene Krall singing. But we'll play like the first tune of this record, "Give Me the Simple Life."
There's a whole lot of Don Lemon in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take it up. You know, he did that a lot. That was great.
Yeah, exactly.
What about the arrangement?
Billy Maiden.
Billy Maiden.
Oh.
And had the solo on it.
Yeah. That was him on the tenor. Yeah. I wanted to play this for you, Jeff, because we know that you have to leave for another internet event. So I wanted to play that big band thing before you have to go, basically.
Thank you. That'll send me on my way, tapping my foot. So thank you, guys. Thank you for inviting me, and Chuck and Mike. Yeah. Thanks for enlightening me more about Larry Bunker, and we're all in this together. So it's always great when we can spend time and learn from the greats. So thank you so much for including me.
Thank you.
Jonathan, Kevin, continue.
All right.
Until the next time, huh?
All right.
Take care, Jeff.
All right.
See you soon.
All right. Yeah. The Burgermeister.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Have a great show.
That's a good one.
And then there were 4.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
You can still have a trio.
Yeah. What's that, Mike?
It feels like musical chairs. Who's
Yeah.
Right.
Was it something we played? Or?
Yeah.
I thought he'd never leave, but that doesn't need to be said. I love him. I've had so much fun every time I get to be with him. Jeff is.
Yeah. He's amazing. He's an amazing guy. And something that's from a little later actually is from a session that you did with Larry, actually, Mike, and he's playing vibes on that, which is actually the theme for Frasier. Can you give a little bit of a backstory behind that?
Yes, yeah. It's not a lot, but Bruce Miller did the end title and wrote this crazy song called Scrambled Eggs and something or other, and he got this incredible lyricist, songwriter, singer, Daryl Fennessy, who did all the vocal parts and background stuff with these cool extended harmonies, and Kelsey Grammer sang on this thing. And he did, and the vibes are featured. It's like a rhythm section with Larry on vibes, Dennis Buttermere played guitar, Chuck DeMonico, and Steve Schaefer, and myself. And they did like a piece of source music, an arrangement just as a blues, but it features Larry playing a vibe solo in it. So I thought it would be fun to hear him play vibes.
They couldn't get anybody good.
What a band, what a band. Very cool. Well, here's Frasier. Some music from Frasier, the TV show.
Yeah.
Featuring our guest, Mike Lang, on piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike.
pretty good band for a TV theme.
Yeah.
Wow. That reminds me. I've told the story before, but I've got to tell it again because listen to Chuck DeMonico on that. You know, when I worked at Shelley's, Chuck came to see me there, and we first of all we got together at his house when Chuck was ill, a bunch of bass players, and we talked about stuff, and we talked about that. You know, and he said, "Yeah, first time I went to see Chuck at Shelley's Band Hall, I listened to him and I thought, well, I might as well go back to wherever he came from because, you know, Chuck, blah, 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 blah." And he went through that whole thing. And when he finished, I said, yes, and I've been subbing for him ever since.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Go Chuck.
Yeah. Well, I miss him so much too.
Yeah.
One thing that to me really special about listening to this right now is how beautiful Dennis Buttermere plays on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, some of his best. You know.
Yeah.
Completely.
Oh, he was a great guitar player. I mean, they got the studio thing and eventually, whatever, got down to something, whatever. But when he first started out, boy, he was.
I thought that Dennis was still around.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But he's not working anymore. It can't. It's hard for him to play, I think, now.
Right.
You get to stop playing. But yeah, he's around. I just talked to him about a week ago.
Oh, good.
A long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Steve Schaefer is also awesome. I just saw a thing of Eddie Daniels with Mike Valerio and Tom Rainier and Steve on drums. Steve was swinging his butt off.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
So good at Vitello's, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. We actually have one more recording left, actually, because we went through all of the music quite fast. And we have that one recording of you, Chuck, with Jimmy Rolls and with Larry.
Oh, yeah.
And it's from Our Delight, and the standards is also Our Delight. And I believe that was a live date. Do you remember anything?
Yeah, I was live at that little club across from NBC. What was it called?
Chadney's.
Little
Chadney's.
Chadney's.
Is that? Yeah. Live there. That's so far long ago now. Bill Miller used to get in there at midnight every night, you know, and have his martinis at midnight. He always got there at midnight. You know? Anyway, so yeah, this was one gig that played with Jimmy there.
Is this a live, like a full album with that band?
I don't know. It was he put it together later, I think, because some of it's not me playing. It's
Max Bennett and Nick.
Max Bennett, yeah.
And then you and Larry. I think it's
me
like
and Larry. Larry played right.
Yeah. But
I don't. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but it's killing. Is
it? I don't know. I haven't heard it for. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
You want to start at the beginning? It's long.
Yeah. This one is quite.
Is it real long?
Almost 10 minutes.
Almost 10 minutes.
Oh my God! Whatever.
We'll just play a bit of it. Yeah.
I want to start a little bit, and
Okay.
Yeah.
Here we go. great. Yeah. That was great.
That's weird. That's
Great solo. Oh man.
well. That's so weird. That's was this still going on? My God.
Yeah.
10 seconds.
We didn't have any music or anything. We're just making it up. But he's got a little spinning piano in that joint, you know. But I forgot.
Right.
God, it was like, what are we playing? What is it? It took about 4 courses to figure out what the hell the tune was. But anyway, but yeah, I don't know how I even chose that, but it was me playing with Larry was what I was looking
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a great example.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I was curious with what he played before you went into Our Delight.
Me too.
I thought it was like a verse, but there's no verse. But
That's what I said. Is this the verse to Our
for.
Delight?
Yeah, no, it's a whole nother tune. I thought, yeah, you know, like I say, there was no rehearsal, no nothing. We're just standing there, you know.
We'll have to try and figure that out, Mike. What that was, what he's playing. I don't.
Yeah, it was a tune. I can't remember.
Yeah, I didn't recognize
I
it.
can't come. I recognize it, but I can't remember the name or whatever.
And how did you do that, Chuck, with Pete when Larry was in the trio? Like, how did you guys work on repertoire?
That's a good question. I guess I played with them so much. You know, what happened? I was working at Shelley's Manhole.
Yeah.
And I worked there about 3 years for $16 a night, and with other groups, once in a while, a couple other nights. And out of nowhere, Ralph Pena, who was Pete's bass player, went with Sinatra. And so Pete called me and said, "Can you come to Sherry's 6 nights a week for $25 a night?" I said, I had to, you know.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
And so we played. I started with Pete there, just no drums or anything, just piano and bass. And I worked with him for 45 years or 46 years. But that's where I learned to play. But I couldn't rely on a drummer or anything like that. You just, there's 2 of us. And that's how I learned all the stuff, you know, that he did.
Wow.
Just by doing it every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hang on, this track is like, it's just, I shut my eyes and I'm listening, and everything for me is coming from the bass. Everything that Jimmy's playing with, but you're like the Rock of Gibraltar, and all of your lines, the way you go up and down the red where you're higher and lower, what you're doing, it just sounds like it's flowing so naturally. It feels so awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's only got me through my entire life. It did. Somehow, it was just having time or something. I don't know what you call it, but that's all I ever did. I never had another job but playing the bass. And I never studied either, or I don't know, never even learned my positions. So I don't know. It's weird. And I play with guys like Mike that know everything about music and things, you know. But anyway, playing the bass is a different animal anyway. So.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, at least for me, when I'm playing, I'm in the moment. You know, I mean, if I have to read something, it's that, but it's still like, I just think it comes from it's like the music passes through you and you have to stay out of the way and just let it take place, and it just finds itself and you get to hear it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you're not doing it. I mean, that's what it seems like.
Well said. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
beautiful.
Anyway, so have we gone overtime now?
No, we're doing good on time. But I mean, that was the last recording that we have, so that's a perfect way to
end
wrap
it.
things up. Yeah, for sure.
Oh.
I mean, you know, like the stuff that you guys show to us is, you know, like incredible stuff that you guys either have done with Larry himself, or stuff that you guys liked, you know, of what Larry did, such as Mike showing the Gerry his quartet album from the Shelley.
Yeah,
Shelley
all that stuff. Yeah. I didn't play with Larry that much, so it was like I met him in the, you know, I saw him more in the studios, way more than I ever saw him on a bandstand, you know.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to pick out stuff that, you know, I could find.
Yeah.
I didn't play much. Actually, the one thing I remember is the gig that Chuck and I did 1 week at Shelley's with Al Combs and Sims. That's the thing I remember. And the rest, I think, for me, was also in the studios, where mostly he would be playing
I miss Pennsylvania.
Right. Well, did you record with Al Cohn and Zoot in that band, Mike?
No.
Okay.
No. I wish.
Yeah, because that's a fantastic band.
It's wonderful getting to hear the two of them as different as they were and the way they worked together.
Oh yeah, they were great. I worked with a gig with them with Shelley, once, and not at Shelley's band hall, another hotel or something. We were in whatever it was in the lobby or something. And that was one of my. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah, and Chuck, you're on that Zoot Sims record where he plays all of the Mandel songs, huh?
Yeah.
Rolly?
Yeah. I think that was the last record he made.
Wow.
I've been on so many people's last record before they passed away. It's scary. It's scary. Yeah.
I remember, Chuck, I think it was recorded and released, but I think you and Roger Kellaway either played with just Zoot or Zoot and Al at Dante's.
Right. Yeah. Well, that was at Dante's. They've got that.
We showed that
last time you played once.
Yeah.
Or something.
I remember there's a video because I was there with my first wife, and there's a close-up of her smoking a cigarette.
Right. That's because there was no audience there, and so they had superimposed that audience sitting there, and we did it during the day without an audience, and we just played, and then they superimposed the audience later.
Yeah.
And the first bass solo, they went to the girl smoking a cigarette. But that's perfect. That's what happens anyway.
Wow. But guys, this was amazing.
So
amazing
fun
to hear stories from you guys, and amazing to listen to some really great music together. And for everybody who's watching, myself, Josh, and Chuck will also be playing at Campus Jacks on July 15th, where we will be playing also with Ralph Moore and Mike Catone, and we'll play also a tune or two from Pete Jolly's book. So definitely come check us out for the first West Coast Jazz Hour live show. We're super excited, Chuck. We can't wait.
Yeah.
We can't.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. And Julie's driving me down there, so we're good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Julie. Thank you.
So
and Mike, what a pleasure to have you here. I'm just a huge fan of yours for so many years, and just to get a little time with you. We're going to need our own show with you. We've been already talking about doing that. So at some point, we'd love to have you back.
It's an honor and a pleasure. I mean, just to be, I want to say in a room, but in a group.
In a virtual group, yeah.
And just to listen to so many great pianists during this session with you, watching you listen, that was a real thrill. Just from Bill Evans to Wofford to Jimmy Rolls and Pete Jolly. My goodness, what a cornucopia of great trios we heard today. Man.
And they're all different players.
And all different.
Styles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have such great memories of working with Jimmy in the studios and with working with Pete. Just fun moments and stuff.
Yeah.
He was really a character with a very unusual sense of humor, and when you expect to say something kind of.
It's kind of showing me how many people are gone now.
Yeah.
Because we can talk about, it's like, geez, we worked with them all the time, this and that. And now it's like you look around and they're not there.
Yeah. But they live on through their music.
That's right.
Yeah, well, that's true. Everybody will.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, I not only got to work with Chuck in the studios a lot, but we got to play fairly, often for me, because a lot less than some other people. But Chuck and I played live in a lot of different.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. In fact, I've even heard people saying, "Oh, I heard you saying that you're my, I'm your favorite bass player," or something like that at one time. I was so impressed with that.
I was reading from a script, but I wrote the script, so it's
right. That's how it was. Yeah, I'm going to see Sip. It's his birthday next Monday.
Who?
Gene Cipriano. I thought you said Sip.
No, it's in script.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's
nice.
Sip's birthday. Wow.
That'll be nice to celebrate with him. Yeah.
I think he's 28 now.
Young at heart.
Yeah. Young in spirit. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, gents, thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
Spending time with us and showing some really incredible music. And for everybody at home, we'll be back in July again with an episode or two. We'll let you guys know how that will develop itself. But for now, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys soon again.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Thank you.